Live to Jonathan Lee in Perth. Jonathan, the stage 3 tax cuts have come up again.
Tom, they certainly happen for very good reason, but to set the scene first and explain what's happening, Anthony Albanese just did a childcare centre. It was a nice picture opportunity for the opposition leader and something we haven't seen too much of during this campaign. We're now heading to a pre-polling station. Obviously, pre-polling is now open and crucial, especially in marginal seats, the likes of Pearce and Swan, which is really what the opposition is targeting today here in West Australia as they try to woo the West and secure government. But stage 3 tax cuts has always been a topical issue. We know it's been a passion of the government and something originally the Labor Party was opposed to. It's now been legislated and Labor says they support it. It's interesting to note though because the Greens are fiercely opposed to such a scheme. They want to scrap it. So the question came to Anthony Albanese today. Would he or does he stand by the stage 3 tax cuts which are legislated, or is it something he's willing to trade away in support of the Greens? Have a listen.
Do you remain committed to them, and will you continue to support the stage 3 tax cuts if there is a condition of doing a deal to achieve government is to drop them? So where do you stand on them? Are you willing to trade that away for government with the Greens?
They've been legislated. We support them. We stand by that. We don't support the Greens. I'm seeking to form government in my own right.
Jim Chalmers, the Shadow Treasurer, has also doubled down on that, or at least thrown his support behind it. I asked him in the budget reply speech, and it was certainly a position that the Labor Party holds. So they haven't moved from that. Interesting because today at the Press Club we've had a number of the fringe parties debating tax policies. They've certainly made clear where they stand.
We can't have tax cuts funded from borrowed money to start.
So that's a no.
That's no.
I do support them, they're legislated, but what I want to see is a rise to the minimum wage. I do support that be raised, and I do think we need to simplify our tax system when it comes to, for example, the payroll tax.
The Greens oppose the stage 3 tax cuts. It'll rip $244 billion out of the budget. Sadly, Labor and Liberals support it. I don't think billionaires need a $9,000 a year per year forever tax cut.
I don't think we need tax cuts for the wealthy. I think that's hugely problematic.
Meanwhile, we're in the final week of the campaign. That means we've begun the pressing on Labor on when will their costings be released.
Well, the Labor Party has certainly held off on their costings. Anthony Albanese's comment today was, well, we've announced at each event we've been to how much money we're going to spend, in effect saying to journalists, well, you guys can add up the 75 million on top of the other XY figure to work out how much we're spending. Of course, it doesn't work like that. It's always a lot easier when an opposition, likes of Bill Shorten did when they came with their costings, or at least what they should have costed. The question today to Anthony Albanese was, when will he release those costings, and specifically around deficits? Will the deficit be larger under a Labor government, which is something which has previously been touted? The Australian newspaper had a story 2 weeks ago saying that it would be larger. Anthony Albanese today, they clearly wouldn't say.
With each policy, we announce what the costings are. The idea that we don't have costings out there is quite frankly absurd.
Over the next 4 years, will those investments lead to higher budget deficits than the coalition?
You know, those investments will lead to higher productivity. And those investments under Labor. Well, you get to ask a question, then I get to answer it. That's the other part of the deal here. You get to ask the question, I get to answer it. The question is, will there be higher productivity under Labor?
The question is, will there be higher deficits over the forward estimates?
The answer to that is, well, what we will have is a fiscally responsible policy.
Yeah, so 3 times there, Anthony Albanese was asked in a series of questions, would the deficit be larger? He still hasn't answered that question, so obviously that will roll on to tomorrow. We're told this will be the opposition leader's last public or media event today, which is pretty interesting, Tom. It's 11:40 local time. Basically be putting the queue in the rack when it comes to media events at around lunchtime. Very different campaign style to the government, which has been campaigning a lot later into the afternoon. But different campaign, different strategy. The Labor leader in many regards staying out of the public spotlight, I suppose you can say.
Jonathan Lee on the bus there in Perth.